little snack. So, but
No,
I'm
no
ready to
worries.
go whenever you guys want.
I believe I've got to hit just a couple of buttons, and we just want to make sure that, oh, it looks like we are live here.
All right.
So we're
We're on
ready.
Facebook.
We're on the Facebook. Welcome, guys. Thanks for hanging out. We are live with Jon Vroman, and today is the first call of our One Life Roadmap Journal launch series, and it culminates this Wednesday with the launch of our Roadmap Journal. And so you guys are going to get a chance to see a little fireside chat with Tim, Jon, and I. And some of you guys know Jon, and if you guys don't, I'll give him a proper introduction in a little bit. But we thought that it was important, given what's happening this week with One Life, but then even at a greater level, what's happening in the world right now, to continue to give you guys the tools and the resources, and maybe even more importantly, connect you with the people that can help you to go deeper into these things. And what we're going to talk about today is helping kids be able to get on their roadmap to living a fulfilled life. And those of you guys who are parents or are in some sort of leadership role with kids know the importance that plays. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But if you guys are not familiar with Jon Vroman, I feel like he has a couple of lives. He's like a cat. He's got all these different lives that he's kind of gone in and out. He's started out in sales and was a large leader in a large sales organization. Went out, became a top speaker, was speaker of the year for colleges, created a nonprofit organization, the Front Row Foundation, and has helped hundreds of people live life in the front row, creating great experiences for them. Front row seats, concerts, sporting events, things like that. And not so recently, he's actually been in this new journey for several years now, helping dads to, in One Life terms, to live their best life and help their families live the best life as well. And we're going to talk about some of the pillars that Jon has in the Front Row Dads, but we just couldn't think of someone who is more fitting to be talking about everything that's going on today. So JV, thanks for spending some time with us as always today, my man. We appreciate it a ton.
I muted myself. I can't think of a better way to spend my Monday afternoon than with you two guys and anybody who happens to be watching.
Jon has interviewed hundreds of, maybe thousands of individuals over his career about a variety of topics: leadership, entrepreneurship, business, and most recently parenting. And he has a show called the Front Row Dads podcast, and I would encourage you guys to go out and subscribe to that. Even if you're not a dad, if you're a mom, if you're a grandma, it's a great show to listen to. But Jon, one of the things that I'd love to just have you share is just a little bit about how you got into this whole journey. We mentioned you had a ton of success in the business world, but now you've kind of, maybe you see it as a 180, but definitely pivoted and are going in a different direction and helping people at an even deeper level, but something that maybe was a little bit different from what you were focusing on 10, 15 years ago when you first started your career. So can you kind of give us the fast track to how you got to today helping dads?
Yeah. Well, I think when you're chasing your one life fully lived, you have to pay attention to where you feel pain and where you feel pulled, right? Like, so sometimes I'm just pulled. There's no pain. I'm just like, that feels good, and I'm going to go in that direction. But other times I feel pain and I'm like, that's a problem and it needs to be addressed right now, immediately. I was unaware of it before. Now I'm aware of it. I've got to do something about it. And that's why I moved into the fatherhood spaces. I said for years I was going to be a great dad. And the truth is that I was a busy dad who loved his family from the road and didn't spend a lot of time with his wife and his son. And when Tiger was 6 and Ocean was just entering the world, I had this realization. And I could tell you more about that story if you want to go down that road, Hector, but I had a realization. And then short part of it is that realization led me to wanting to be a better dad, because I woke up to the fact that I wasn't a great dad in that moment. And let me define this. I think that you could be working hard and be a great dad, right? I think though that you can also be working a little too hard because you're hiding at your office, because you're hiding behind I want to show my kids how to work hard, and I want to provide this for my family. And I do think you need to provide food, shelter, you need to be a provider for your family. But I was hiding behind that, I want to work hard role. And I want to make sure that my busy season doesn't turn into a busy life. Right. So that's where it all started, man. It was just a realization I wanted to be better. I looked around for a community of people that were entrepreneurial guys who wanted to be, as we say now, family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. And we started gathering people together under that premise. So October of 2016, we got the group together, and it's been off and growing ever since then. And even this month, we're having our best month, if you will, as a brotherhood, which means that the podcast has reached more people. We've added new members to the community, that we've enhanced our resources that we provide. And I've never been more excited about where we are. And it seems like it's a perfect time because guys are like, I need some parenting resources now. I've never had my kids in my proximity this much, which is great.
It's been a big challenge for a lot of parents. I know there was a series of challenge, when everything got shut down, there was the homeschooling challenge. And then, as that kind of lingered on, there was the, kind of dealing with your kids at home challenge. And then now today, I had a conversation with a GoBundance member and, someone who contributes to the One Life community quite a bit. And he talked about taking his kids to the rallies, and how they were just at that age. One of them, I think, was 5 and another was 8, where they're just old enough to be confused. Yeah. And the pandemic was a little easier because they understood getting sick. They knew what that was about. But all of a sudden there was this race thing. And so what he mentioned, which was nice, is that they were confused by why it was such a big deal. And so it kind of gave him a little credence to, gave him a little bit of hope that the next generation can really, really change things. So, John, one thing that I noticed in doing some research, and you can see here, I'm part of the Front Road's Dad's Brotherhood, and they're doing some. I'm so lucky to be a dad when tools and resources like these are around. But our pillars in One Life are vision, finances, relationships, and wellness. And the Front Row Dads, you guys have pillars as well. And I'm going to go through them. And I'd love for you to just talk about kind of the evolution of these pillars. And, you've been around One Life a little bit, how you think they might, how you think they relate. But the pillars in the Front Row Dads are intentional parenting, a thriving marriage, business evolution, wealth and legacy, vibrant health, and emotional mastery.
Correct.
And so I see a ton of similarities there. What do you think is kind of the connection between, the One Life roadmap and the Front Row Dads pillars?
Yeah, well, I think it makes sense. There's a lot of overlap, right? There's a part of me that always wanted to be like, I want a community like nobody else. I want our pillars to be totally different than everybody, and you realize that we're all human beings with similar needs and motivations. And yes, we're all unique, and yes, we're all, living our own life. But there are so many things that make us one human race, right? One planet, one world, one family. And so there, of course, is a lot of overlap. And, I think that I'm sorry, let me start with health as being part of like a primary objective. I think many of us would agree that if you don't have your health, right, that's a challenge, right? If you don't have your health, that's a challenge to live your best life. And I'm not saying that if you are compromised, that you can't live your best life in a situation like that, because you can. And it's been proven many, many times that people with different situations can live their best life. I think it's a question of like, what's 10 out of 10 look like for you? You talk about resources. It's like, when we look at our resources around us, how are we utilizing them, right? How are we playing the cards that we've been given? And I think that, when we look at our pillars and how they might align. And even if I look at like a GoBundance and that group, which I know there's a lot of overlap and a lot of, meshing of these communities, which is beautiful. I think that's one of the most beautiful things. Tim, you and I have talked about that a lot, about how there's not any fear of like, this person took our idea, or they went, it's all inspired collaborative thinking about how we can all serve people. So the fact that we all have pillars, first of all, that's a beautiful thing, right? We've identified what's important to us. And I think that we also can keep looking at our pillars and asking how they're evolving. Because like you said, you even talked about the evolution of Front Row Dads. Here's a great example of this. We never had business as part of our initial conversation, because when the guys came together back in 2016, we were talking about business so much. It was the one thing we didn't want to talk about. So the only rule of the group was no business talk, right? And then all of a sudden, and that served us. That was, everybody loved that. Everybody agreed. We said, that's the best place to go, because a lot of us knew each other already and we knew what we did in our businesses. But then what happened was, over the years, the more guys that we added in, they would say, I don't even know what that guy does in business. Now, it's not the reason that we're together, but his business is a big part of his life. And for me to really help him to make sure his business isn't dominating his life, or how to, scale back his business and get back his life, I need to know a little bit about his business. And we love our businesses. So to not know anything about this guy's business would be to miss something that's very important. Well, and then when COVID hit, it allowed us to have a conversation, which felt very important at the time, of like, how are you shifting during this incredible time? Because it was causing so much stress for the family that it was a natural fit. And through that conversation, our guys said, look, we want to make our family the primary conversation, but we want to talk about business too, not from the standpoint of just like, hey, how can I go from, dollar value, our business makes X amount of money today, and how can we double it tomorrow? Like, that's not the only conversation of how to drive profits. It's, how do I design a business that serves my family and our community and the world? So we chose the term business evolution because it was a process that our businesses go through that allow us to evolve as a brotherhood, as a community, and as a planet. And that was ultimately the goal. So I think there's a lot of overlap in the sense that we're all talking about the things that matter most to us, right? We're talking about the things that are important. And of course we're going to find some consistency amongst them.
Yeah, Tim, feel free to jump in here if you want to chime in.
I just love to hear with the Front Row Dads, like, what are you guys doing with the kids at different ages? Like, bringing them along. And I'm talking about, like, in One Life, we have our fulfillment triangle thought process of helping them figure out where will they fit in and thrive based on their personality traits and who they are at their core, and just helping them develop that as time goes on.
Yeah, so this is great. Let me answer that question from the standpoint of an idea that somebody could take away today. And if all they had was 5 more minutes, I'm going to give you, anybody listening, what I think is the best idea I've ever had as a dad. So I'm not going to say I'll save it to the end and you have to stick around. I'm going to give you what I think is my best idea. And I also think, Tim, that this speaks to the development of the inner genius of a child, the natural God-given talent that everybody is bestowed with, right? That we sometimes as parents want to project our blueprint of the world on our children and say, if you want to be successful, because I've been through this life and I've defined what success looks like, and this is what you need to do. And it's all with the best of intentions and the best heart, right? But what we also need to be doing is not only sharing our blueprint, what we've learned with our children, but allowing our children to be our teachers, allowing our children to open our eyes to a new version of a human being that was given to us to shepherd along. We don't own our children. And maybe our primary role isn't to be their teachers. Let me tell you all the information you need to know, but let me just figure out what's beautiful about my child and help them to identify that within themselves and bring it into the world. So here's the idea. Every single week, I take a photograph from the week. So I try to take as many pictures as I can with my family, and I try to catch my kids and my wife doing something where they are demonstrating a strength in the world, right? Like they're doing something where I'm like, they're showing patience, they're showing persistence, they're showing integrity, they're showing love, they're showing any of these qualities or values. I'm watching for it. And I'm noticing like Ocean, my 5-year-old, is on the playground and he recruits another kid. He's like, come play with me. And he's running away with this kid. And I take a picture. I'm like, that's it. He's a recruiter, right? He's inclusive, right? It doesn't matter. Skin color doesn't matter, Hector, right? Right. Like this is it, right? Just bring him along. And I take the picture of him running with this kid. And then I see my wife like nurturing my children by playing a game with them. And I'm like, this is it. She's so playful. I'm going to take a picture of that. Right. And I got all these pictures. And here's an example for anybody who's watching. So there's a picture of Ocean, my 5-year-old, with his Kung Fu instructor. That's his first Kung Fu lesson. And on the back, I've been writing notes every week. So I write this note and I date it and I do one picture, one note every single week. And I've been doing this for months and months and months. And listen, it says, Ocean, this was your first Kung Fu lesson and you were awesome. During meditation, you sat quietly and focused. Tiger said to me, Ocean's doing such a great job. And I agreed. You're playful, strong, and ready to learn. I love watching you grow. You're proud papa. Okay. Now, I do this every single week. And I started doing this just for the boys. I was like, how can I be a better dad? But one of the things we realize, guys, is that in order to be an amazing dad, you have to be an amazing husband or an amazing partner. You have to demonstrate not only love for your kids, but other important people in their life, to their mentors, to their guides, to other humans and adults your age and your size, right? So I said, I'm going to start doing this for my wife. And I started catching her doing things and writing notes. And then I would hand her a note in front of the kids. And they're like, yeah, mom is that. Yeah, mom is awesome. And mom is seeing me hand notes to the kids and saying, oh, I see that now in a more clear light than I had before. So Tim, how I am trying to create a culture in my home. And I share this story because I refrain from trying to tell every other dad how to be, right? Every other dad, you want to be a great dad, you need to do this. You need to do this with your kids. You need to educate them in this way. No, dads, you know what's best. When you are fully present, when you are fully plugged in, when you are there stepping into your role as a father courageously, boldly, willing to make mistakes, willing to, be grateful for all your wins and excited about those wins, you will know what to do. Right? It's a question we get a lot is like, how do I know what to do? How do I know what conversation to have at what age? And truly, when you are so plugged in with a person, you know what to do. When you know your wife deeply, intimately, when you pay attention to what lights her up, you know what to give her for a present because you know what her love language is, because you know what has lit her up in the past. You know what to do, right? When we know our kids, we know what to do. We know when it's appropriate to have the sex talk, which is not a sex talk. It's a series of talks throughout their life, right? That we show up for. So I think that these are important elements. So in summary, guys, my thought is this, right? And my thought is that we have to be totally plugged in, which means showing up, which means listening deeply, right? Which means really paying attention to our kids, observing them, not just in their words, not listening just with our ears, but with our eyes and our heart, right? Like listening completely. And as my new friend, Zach Bush says, he says, we need to be good at paying attention to the beauty of things. The beauty of nature and the beauty within our children and the beauty within our spouses and the beauty within these moments, right? And he also says, which is very powerful, in a recent conversation I just had with him on a podcast, was he said, John, it's not being proud of your kids, proud of your employees, because pride in some ways indicates that you're kind of taking credit for what happened, right? I'm proud of you because you know what I mean? It's like, but just being in awe. Right? Like you think about this, like one of the best things we can do is to be in awe, because in awe, we remain in a state of curiosity. When we're in awe, we're like a playful child. And why children are so present is because they're constantly in a state of awe. Right. And that's good. Not constantly. I mean, that's not the right word, because some people were like, not my children. My kids are bored out of their mind on a regular basis. Right. But kids can be in a sense of awe so openly, so in the moment, that's where we need to be as leaders. And that's what they have to teach us if we come full circle here.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was really strong, John. I love that. The best thing we can do is be in a sense of awe, correct?
Yeah.
Love it. And our kids, be like them. Okay, so I have another question along those lines. So I always looked at it as my mission is to help my kids get out as healthy, happy, productive adults. And kind of like, One Life really tries to teach young people and all people the business of running your life, if you will. If you've ever read the E Myth, it's the business of running your business. And we think of One Life as the business of running your life. And that's what I looked at for my kids. And I'm proud to say they're all out in the world. Happy, healthy, productive, and not on drugs. You know what I mean? Not lost souls trying to find themselves and stuff. And so what are you guys doing along those lines with the Front Row Dads?
We tell them to go to One Life. We say, go meet my friends at One Life. They've got the roadmap for you. No, but in all kidding aside, let me bring you to my conversation this morning with my wife. So my wife and I, we've started sitting down on Monday mornings to talk about what the week is going to look like for our kids. And in all honesty, that should have been happening prior to COVID, but COVID was really the spark of it, right? COVID allowed us to sit down and say, all right, what do we want? And so the conversation comes back to, for she and I, is how do we want to create a scenario this week where Tiger can learn what we believe to be true about the resource, what Front Row Dads is about. And that is relationships, resources, and results, right? Relationships, resources, and results. And to us, that means that if Tiger has the relationships, if he has the mentors, if he has the friends that he will feel most alive with, most celebrated with, most challenged by in a great way, that we all know that relationships are important, right? We all know that intuitively, or we've been learning that over time. Like, that's what it's all about, is relationships at the end of the day. It's the one skill that we know if he has that, he'll be great, right? He'll be great. If he's got great friends and he's really plugged in, I think that if there's one thing we could get right, it's helping him to develop that skill set going forward. So one of the things we ask is, where are the play dates? Where's our connect? And that, by the way, as a child, that might be the question of where's the play date. But as an older child, it's how are we creating these shared experiences with other families? What families can we get together with? What events are we going to go to? What courses can we take? Right? So that ultimately what it is, it's putting them in proximity of great friends and great mentors. So that's one. The second one is the resources. And that, to me, the resources is different in the relationships. And it's literally the tools that exist for us that are out there. So what tools can exist? And I kind of said it tongue in cheek, but I really meant it serious. Like, how can I get them connected to One Life? How can I bring my kids to your events? How can I get them going through programs online that are the resources available? So yes, I want there to be a great mentor there, but I also want the content to be rich. What videos do I want them watching? What books do I want them reading? I mean, Hal, our good buddy, just sent me a text literally this morning. And I think it's always good to prove your statements whenever possible, right? And this is it. Like, here you go. So check this out. So that text, can you see it? That's a book suggestion right there. And it was called Teach Your Children the Principles of Freedom. Very relative right now, right? Very important right now. Well, the relationship led to the resource, right? And it's like, here's the tool, here's the book, here's the concept. And then that ultimately leads to the result. And then Tatiana and I constantly need to be sitting down and saying, hey, what does the result look like now? What are we getting? Is he genuinely happy? Is my child lit up? Is he, right? Like you said, productive, right? Is he a productive person? Is he creating something? Not what I think he needs to create necessarily, but like, what is he building? And how is he contributing to society? So we can do that by the parents having the conversation. But then I also think, Tim, that there needs to be a family huddle. At some point, there needs to be a family huddle. So dinner time is a great opportunity for people to come back together. And I think that dads and parents need to be thinking about what questions they ask at dinner. Because sometimes we look at dinner as like, let's just sit down and eat some food and be like, how was your day? And that's wonderful if you sit with your family and ask, how was your day? But can we be even more intentional about that? I hear Sarah Blakely, right? Founder of Spanx, billionaire, who talked about her father asking her questions at the dinner table about how did you fail today and what did you do about it? So these interesting questions that, hey, what did you build? How did you help somebody? Who helped you? right? What was your high point? What was your low point? Like all these fascinating questions that we can ask kids, which I also think is an important part of it, right? So for us, it goes back to the conversations I'm having with my wife, the conversations I'm having with my kids, having some framework that we believe in, right? So relationships, resources, and results, something to check in on, and then be honest with ourselves about what are we getting, and then not being afraid to pivot along the way.
I just want to take a quick moment to plug the One Life Roadmap Journal for students, currently available on Amazon. So,
boom.
But there you go. So I think you're absolutely right. And more these people, organizations and people are coming out with the resources and the tools to be able to do that. Tim, one thing that I think would be good to have Jon's insight on it. And guys, if you're watching this live, we've probably got maybe Jon for another few more minutes here. So if you guys have any questions, Miranda said this is great stuff. So I want to thank you, and Rebecca as well was giving some props to your insight, Jon. But what about one of the pillars for One Life is finances, and one of the big things that we've tried to include in the One Life Roadmap Journal for students is ways that kids, and not only kids but anybody, can get started making money, whether it's lemonade stands or flipping cards or shoes or whatever it may be. We are really about empowering people to make that first $100 and then to save $1,000 and get to that $10,000 mark that I think a lot of people, when they're just getting started, want to get to. So what about making money or kind of the early entrepreneurship? How does that come up in the Front Row Dads?
Yeah. Well, again, it's difficult to speak to every dad with every kid of every age, because you're listening to this and you've got a newborn, you're in one camp. And if you've got a 5-year-old, you're in another, a 10-year-old, if you've got teens, so it's hard to speak to all of them. But again, my typical approach is I just share my own experience, and I can talk about what other guys have done. But I know there's a percentage of people out there listening who might have kids my age, 5 to 10 years old, right? And I'm just going to speak to that for a quick second. So Hector, for us, I'll tell you something fun we did during this whole stay-at-home order was we said, all right, the kids are going to set up a business at home. And I didn't want them just like doing schoolwork for the sake of doing schoolwork. I wanted them to I wanted to see if I could get a lot of things to work in harmony. I wanted one thing to serve many things, right? If possible, and teach them that concept of leverage and working in harmony, right? How can one project lead to the benefit of another? And so I invited my kids to start businesses, which they did. And they turned our living room into a storefront, and they built little walls and had an entranceway. And then my kids were making things for the store. They were making artwork, and they were making Tiger made oils. He took mom's essential oils and he blended them together and he gave it a name. And he's like, this one's called like Dream Star. and he had them all in the store, and he was selling them to us after dinner. And we would come to the store and they would greet us. And I mean, guys, it was hysterical because, it starts off with come right into my store, buy this, it's $10, and you'd say, I don't know if that's, like, how about 5? And they're like, no, 10. And you're like, all right, let me teach you about negotiation. Right. And there's all these like opportunities for great lessons. We tried to pay my 5-year-old, for his artwork with change. And he told us that he only takes flappy dollars. He calls them flappy dollars, which means, a dollar bill or more, right? So 1, 5, 10. He doesn't do change. He doesn't sell anything for 25 cents or 50 cents.
This kid's a natural.
Yeah, he's like, I only take flappy dollars, is what he said.
Oh yeah.
So now our whole family.
That's a sign, Johnny. That's a sign.
Now our whole family calls them flappy dollars. My wife likes to ask me when we're out in public if I have any flappy dollars. So anyway, it's so fun, right? And here's the thing I also want to tell you, and I think it's very important that I say this. Guys, there are so many disasters in my home. There are so many moments when I have this brilliant idea of my kids setting up a store, and they're going to love it, and it's going to be perfect, and they're going to learn all these entrepreneur lessons. And then they don't want to make anything for the store, right? Or it's like, hey, they don't want to listen to my ideas. They don't want to listen to my suggestions. They don't want to sell anything that night, or they don't want to cooperate, or whatever it is. So I just want to let you know that if you have ever felt as a parent that you've got these great ideas and your children don't want to participate in them, and you're like, my child's so not motivated, or they're not getting it, or whatever, I face that constantly. But I have to remember to meet them where they are and that I need to remember to be flexible and adaptive and go with the flow and constantly be asking questions and changing my approach and realizing that a lot of this is a big experiment and we're all having fun. We're all trying to have fun experimenting. But here's one last thing I'll leave you with, guys, is that, I mean, I'll stay as long as you want, but here's how this parlayed into something else. So I kept thinking, like, I need to teach my kids how to learn what people want, like how to solve a problem. So if you want me to buy something, if you solve one of my problems, which is a great entrepreneurial skill to learn, then you'll probably be able to charge more money for it, right? If you really solve a problem for me. So then I said, why don't you get to know the people that will come to your store? And I wanted them to get to know their Aunt Kirsten and their grandma and grandpa, because they were doing virtual presentations of their work. And then relatives would Venmo them money and I would teach them how to mail out product, right? But that allowed them to learn about our relatives. Well, this parlayed into an interview with grandma and grandpa, because when my grandma was in her 90s, I decided to interview her because I was like, I want my kids to know their great grandma, right? And I said, I'm going to interview my grandma. And I did on film. I went and sat with her multiple times and I set up a camera and I asked her questions about her life. And in fact, when she passed at 101 years old, my mom said that I asked her mom, right, questions that she never knew the answers to, that my mom got this incredible gift at the end. And now my boys would be able to know great grandma. And I want to show, can I show you something, guys? Do I have, oh, I do. Can I share my screen real quick? Is that all right, Hector?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So check this out, guys. So this is Tiger's mission for the week. And I've been creating these missions. Can you see that, Hector? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So the mission is to interview grandma and grandpa. Why? They'll love it. You'll learn more about your grandparents years down the road. It'll be fun to look back on, right? And here's the different steps: call and schedule, tell them the questions that you want to ask so they can think about them. And then here's the questions. Grandpa questions. Why did you choose to join the Navy? Why not the Army, the Air Force, right? What did you do in the military? And what did you like about it? What was the scariest moment? And then I told him that grandpa owned a Porsche and my son is obsessed with cars. So I said, ask him what kind of Porsche he owned. And they had an amazing chat about that. And my dad lit up and Tiger lit up and it was incredible. He asked the same questions for my mom about the garden and what type of wildlife does she have, because she's an outdoors person, right? Were your parents gardeners and all that kind of stuff. So I created this list, and now Tiger set up an interview with grandma and grandpa, and he reached out and he's learning interview skills. He's learning to ask questions. He's learning to do what we're doing right now. Cause I'm like, what skill do I want him to have? I want him to learn how to interview and talk to people and learn from their wisdom and have a relationship with people he cares about. So we recorded it and we're putting it in the family vault for that later on down the road. We're going to be like, dude, this is your interview with grandma and grandpa when you were 10 years old. We think that's a beautiful gift. So I think that there's some real harmony there between what you guys are doing. And you talk about vision for the future, right? As a dad, I think that great dads can be in the moment, showing up for their families right now today. And it can be massively overwhelming and there's chaos everywhere. But I also think it's important that as dads, we look outward and say, all right, if I'm an amazing dad, I not only care about my family, I care about other people's families. If I'm a great dad, if I'm an amazing dad, I not only care about my family right now, but I care about generations down the road. I have vision for the future, right? I have visions for my grandkids and their grandkids and the planet that I'm leaving them and the kids that I'm leaving the planet. And all of that is so important. So I think that we need to have that vision. We need to have that roadmap. We need to understand that we've got this one life, and we don't want to be that dad that looks back from years down the road on these moments and say, I wish I would have, right? I hid at work. I constantly was pulled into my business, and being a dad at home and being a husband, that's hard, but I need to step into that fire with courage and own that space as much as I want to own that space at work where I feel like maybe I'm a rock star. That's it, guys.
Golden, Johnny. That's golden. So lucky to have you on, man. Thanks so much. You're a great dad, great husband, great man, great friend. So thanks, brother.
Thank you, Tim. I feel the same way about you, buddy. And Hector.
It's mutual, and I always look forward to these. FrontRowDads.com. Front Row Dads is the podcast. I saw the hat is now available to anybody who wants to sport one. That was, you used to have to be in the Brotherhood. It was exclusive, but now it looks like.
Now we have a different hat that is exclusive to the Brotherhood that you can't buy online.
There you go. Always up to his ways. JV, this has been fantastic. Any other place you want to send people to or direct them?
No, that's great. No, I'd say that if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, that is just wonderful. And I want to give you an incredible amount of praise and gratitude for stepping up in your own life. And I think that's what the world needs, is for people to be owners of their lives and to be owners of their space. If everybody takes care of themselves and their families and their neighbors, that we can make this thing work. But if we don't, if we are disconnected, if we disconnect from nature, if we disconnect from our communities, this will not end well. It's not going to be a happy ending to this story if we lose that connection. And what you guys are doing are bringing people back together, bringing them back into their heart and operating from a place of love and contribution. And it's wonderful. I mean, the world is so lucky to have One Life Fully Lived, and the two of you and the many other leaders in this organization. I just can't say enough good things about you two. And if my kids ever have the opportunity to be surrounded by you, I'll send them to be in your presence and be mentored and be loved on by you. And I would do that proudly.
We'll be talking. We're working on some really good stuff for young people on what Hector kind of gave a nug there. How do you make your first 100? How do you monitor your ABCs and really know your finances? Turn it into 10,000, and then where do you take it from there? And yeah, so anyway, that'd be fun. Hector, take it home, buddy.
Well, that's it, JV. If you want to stick around for our shameless plug and promotion time, you're more than welcome. But we appreciate it, your time so much.
Guys, hey, this has been wonderful. I'll catch you really soon. And thanks to everybody for listening. If anybody needs anything, feel free to reach out.
All right, guys. Front Row Dads is on Instagram. They have a Facebook group, Front Row Dads, and the podcast is there. If you guys are sticking around, I'd love to quickly chat about what's happening this Wednesday. We have a brand new One Life Roadmap journal coming out. Some of you guys who have been around the One Life community, for a while, some of you may not even know that this thing is out there and that there are these things that are available. For the longest time, people had to show up to a One Life event in order to get One Life. But now what's really wonderful is that we've created a tool, a journal, something that people can do on their own at their own pace to really get One Life. It walks them through the One Life Core 4, helps them figure out who they are. It helps them create a vision for themselves. They're able to craft a mission statement, and then it helps them dial in the rest of the Core 4. So it helps them to figure out their finances. If they are going through the student edition, it's tailored and in a perspective and a reference for them. And we also, this coming Wednesday, are coming out with an adult edition for people who are already out in the world. And this is great for someone who is, maybe, frankly, there are quite a lot of people who have hit rock bottom and are now looking for that way up, and they're looking to bounce back. And this could be that tool to bounce back. And then there's also a lot of people who, have reached kind of that first mountaintop. They've achieved a little bit of success, and now they're looking for that fulfillment part. And this journal simultaneously walks them through that. There's over 100 pages worth of activities, exercises, journal prompts. There's a bunch of resources in there. It's something that you can do, like I said, at your own pace, or you can kind of binge through it like you might a Netflix series and go through it all. I also like that you can kind of pick and choose. So if you feel like right now your finances could really use some help, you could skip straight to the finances section and start working through those ABCs, learning how to increase your income, figure out what your expenses are, increase your savings, and start to figure out what to, do with the rest and invest it wisely. Or if you feel like you need more attention with your health or your wellness or relationships, it really is a journal that you can kind of dive into at your own pace, or even start off where you'd like. we have a cool little special going on right now. And if you guys have been part of the advanced reader team, you guys have heard about this, but on Wednesday, you can actually get the adult edition for 67% off. You can get, you can get it for basically at no cost. Basically, you just pay the shipping and pay Amazon, and they'll ship you out one. But that's only on Wednesday. So if you want to get notified for that, I'd go to onelifefullylived.org/ART, and you guys can get in on that. Otherwise, if you just search One Life Roadmap Journal on Amazon, you should be able to find the student edition and the adult edition on Wednesday, or you can just go to our website and get connected on there as well. But Wednesday, June 17th, the adult edition will be available as well. Tim, I'm going to see if we have any questions here. Anything you want to add in on the adult edition that'll be available Wednesday, or the student edition that's currently available on Amazon?
I just want to thank our team, and I'm so, here's the word, proud of the work our team's done with the first One Life Roadmap Student Edition. It just gets our core 4 teachings out there to those just getting out in the world. And then over the last year, we've been working on this One Life Roadmap edition for adults, and it's much more robust. And it just has, for those out in the world, trying to find their best path. It's for anybody who wants more in their life or wants to help somebody they know, go after their best life. Maybe that person's just getting sober. Maybe that person's a graduate. Maybe that person is incarcerated and getting out. Maybe they're in a tough relationship and they just need a little love and a push towards their best life. Why don't you buy 2 of these, go through it yourself, and go through it with them? Maybe you should buy it for your whole mastermind group and go through it together. There's a number of uses, and we're going to be getting this thing all over the country and all over the world because, look around, everybody. It is time for people to go inside and do the tough work to figure out what is my best life. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent here. Susan Jacobson talked about how the One Life community is like scaffolding. Think of that on the side of a building. Some people are higher up on the scaffolding. Some are, on the high rise that's going up to the top. And some are just going nice and slow and plodding at their own pace. And we don't care what you do. We don't care how you do it, as long as you're not mean and you don't suck. But as long as you get the vibe and you're towards your best life. Jon Vroman said the same thing. I don't think we've heard each other say this, but your best life, your family's best life, your community, and that's going to lift the world. But it starts inside you, and you're being part of the scaffolding in your own life and helping us build something that's much needed in the world. So, and then we all throw the rope down and lift those on the bottom that never get this message. And that's the beauty of One Life Fully Lived, is we're all on the scaffolding together. So take it away, Hector.
That's it. We'll leave it there, guys. onelifefullylived.org/journal. Everything will be, you can get it digitally. You can download it. You can buy it on Amazon, and go do it. It's available Wednesday, or if you want to get the student edition, you guys can get it today. All right. Hope you enjoyed this. We'd encourage you to come and join us live on Wednesday, launch day, when the journal released with the 3 amigos, David Osborne, Pat Hyben, and Tim Rhode. They're going to be talking about their roadmap, and it's their roadmap to financial freedom. I mean, it's the first time that the 3 amigos have been together on a podcast in quite some time. So this will be a real treat for everybody who's there. You can register for that at onelifefullylived.org/join. Look in the Facebook group. You'll see lots of stuff in there. All right, guys, today's Monday. Have a great Monday, and we'll see you guys on launch day.